If we don't need to kill and eat animals to survive and thrive, what do we do this for? Currently, we kill 56 billion land animals and over 3 trillion sea animals every single year. That's a lot of killing in the air. I've never charged for any of my speeches. I never want anybody to question my integrity. It's for the animals, it's to raise awareness. I thought that the vow of silence would be a great way to raise awareness, and at the time I saw animals as voiceless.
So where are you right now?
Desperate times call for desperate actions.
Why did you do this?
Thank you for asking.
Oh, lovely to have you back.
How does it feel?
Great to be able to talk. Ooh, sounds different. There's a difference between enslavement and freedom, between torture and peace, between death and life. To throw that away just because we like a taste, that's the thing that frustrates me the most.
Want to hear my vegan joke?
Yeah, go.
How can you tell if someone's vegan? Just wait 5 minutes and they'll tell you.
Yeah, how can you tell if someone's not vegan? They'll tell you that shitty joke.
This week on the show, we have James Aspey, who's a vegan activist that once did a 365-day vow of silence to protest animals being killed for food. And he got my respect with that move, and we talked all about veganism. Now look, I know it might not be for you or for me, but I'm eating less meat in my diet, and I wanted to hear what he has to say. He believes we don't need to force these animals into suffering, and we become better people when we make choices based on a plant-based diet. Really enjoyed talking to him. He suffered cancer as an early age, struggled with drug addiction and bulimia as a male, and just now goes around the world giving free speeches. And that's what he does in an amazing way, and I love talking to him. He got vulnerable, he got real about what it's like, and I truly believe he thinks that this is the right way to eat. So I hope you enjoy this episode. And again, try one day vegan, try one day vegetarian, have more of a plant-based diet and see how you feel. I think there's something here, folks, for sure. And if you want to really change your diet, then jump in with us on the Life Mastery class. It's going to kick off for 2018. Change your game, change your year. I'm going to teach you how we do affirmations, gratitude, how we meditate. I'm going to teach you how to move like Ido Portal, how to do your diet. Everything is all in this course, relationships, you name it. So that's coming soon. And now I leave you with the vegan himself, Mr. James Aspey. This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is James Aspey, the vegan and animal rights activist from Sydney, Australia. In 2014, you took a 365-day vow of silence and cycled 5,000 kilometers to raise awareness for animals and promote peace over violence. You then broke your vow during an interview on Australia's most popular morning TV show. You've survived cancer, overcome drug abuse and eating disorders, and now travel the world giving free speeches to make our planet a more sustainable place. James, welcome to London Real.
Thanks a lot, man. Thanks for that intro. Appreciate it, brother.
No problem, man. You're in London. What is the state of what is the state of eating in this city? Like when you get here, is this a place that knows your vibe, or is this a place where you're like, I got some people that are going to be listening to my speeches this weekend?
The vibe is definitely growing everywhere. This is definitely a place where you can easily eat vegan, and there's tons of restaurants around. In fact, yesterday I just walked 5 minutes from my restaurant and I went to, is it Wagamama? Something like that. Yeah. They got a new vegan menu there, which I was happy to see. And so that's basically, I think, kind of a worldwide thing right now where veganism is growing, animal rights is growing. They say it's the fastest growing social justice movement of our time. So yeah, it's a good place to be, man, and it's a good time for this movement as well.
You know, this vow of silence, I must say, it got my attention because there's a lot of people that protest things, but not a lot of people are willing to put that much skin in the game. And so let's talk about that first, and then we'll talk about all things vegan.
Sure.
Why go in that big? And did you ever at some point think, wait, I got in too deep? So that's my question for you.
Yeah, well, why? You know, desperate times call for desperate actions. And I just realized what a desperate time this is if you are another species on this planet, especially if you are a pig, cow, chicken, or fish. It doesn't get any more desperate than what they're going through. And when I became aware of it, I realized how few people actually seem to be aware. So many people view themselves as animal lovers, or at the very least, they would say that they're against animal cruelty. Yet they pay people every single day generally to mutilate and torture and kill animals for foods and products that not only they don't need, but that they're better off without. And when I started learning that we can live and thrive without consuming animal products, naturally I wanted to tell others how much healthier it is, how much better it is for the environment and for the animals. And when people didn't really change, which I expected they would want to, I felt I need to do something bigger. I need to, you know, Einstein said those who have the privilege to know have the duty to act. And I felt very grateful that I could see this injustice happening, and I felt a responsibility to do something. I thought that the vow of silence would be a great way to raise awareness because it was something I didn't know of anyone else doing, and at the time I saw animals as voiceless, so I thought there was a connection there, and I just thought I'd give it a crack, man. There were definitely times where I thought I was in too deep. In fact, the whole year of planning it, everybody told me I was in too deep. No one thought, really, not many people at all thought that it was a good idea, including vegans. But, you know, I just stuck with what I felt was right, and I figured it was worth a crack.
Why didn't they think it was a good idea?
Well, my family didn't think it was a good idea because they thought it might send me crazy. They thought that, you know, friends and family thought it would draw maybe negative attention, or that I wouldn't be able to make it, and that would look negatively to the cause. Vegans were saying things like, you need a voice, you need to give animals a voice, this is ridiculous, you have to talk about it. You know, I saw that as a little bit short-sighted. And to be honest though, they were right up until the end there. You know, I wrote a blog every day while I was traveling around Australia in that vow of silence, but it didn't reach that many people. I had about 10,000 people on my Facebook page, something like that. It was when I spoke for the first time on that interview where that was shared and viewed by millions and millions of people, and that's where the vow of silence really was worth it.
And you hadn't talked up until that point?
Okay, so...
Talked in your sleep?
Hang on. That happened one time, and I woke up, I'm like, who the hell was that, man? What was going on? Just like thinking it. I realized I was sleep talking, and I'd woke myself up. I'd accidentally spoke about 4 or 5 times. Just a word would slip out of my mouth, mainly at the start, and purely accidental. Although I did say my vow was officially finished at the stroke of midnight when the new year began. And I'd planned to speak for the first time on the Sunrise Morning Show 13 days later, after I did a 10-day meditation to figure out exactly what I was going to say. Okay. But I told Sunrise I would do that, but I wanted to say something, you know, when I was able to. It had been a whole year, and I was seeing this girl at the time, and she'd never heard me speak. So the fireworks were going off, it was in Sydney, and I just like gave her a hug and said her name in her ear, which she never heard me talk. I said it real loud to make sure my voice worked. So I freaked her out, bro, and then I just didn't say anything after that, you know. Then I just waited the next 13 days until I was on that show.
How do you date without talking?
Man, I learned to do a lot of things without talking that year, but yeah, you make it work, and you know, you still communicate. There's a lot more body language, and it wasn't easy, but you know, actually we didn't last much longer after I started talking. I don't know, maybe that was the problem.
Had anyone ever done something similar? I mean, has this been done before, the vow of silence?
There was a man called John Francis, and he is an environmentalist. He stopped speaking for 17 years. He also didn't, I think it was 17 years, something like that. He also didn't ride in any transportation devices for, I think it was 22 years. So he's the only guy that I'd ever heard of doing it before. I read his book before I started my own vow. It's called The Ragged Edge of Silence. I found it insightful, and it helped me realize that it was possible. Apart from that, some Buddhist monks, I'd never heard of anyone else doing it.
Wow. And what did you learn from that whole experience?
The whole experience, man, I learned so much that year. You know, because when the day that I started my vow of silence was actually the day I went vegan. I'd been trying to be vegan before that, but like you mentioned earlier, I had a bad eating disorder, I had a bad case of bulimia, and it was very hard for me to eat exactly how I wanted to eat. I couldn't help myself. I was a big emotional eater. So I'd go a few weeks without eating any animal products, and then I'd binge on a tub of ice cream. But when I started my vows, so I didn't know much about animals before that, you know. I'd learned about being vegetarian and the health benefits and the environmental devastation from animal agriculture. I'd learned all that after I had the idea to do the vow of silence. And I tried to study as much as I could that year of planning the vow of silence. When I started my vow, I still didn't know much about animals. I still hadn't been around many animals ever. You know, except for my little dog. I didn't even really understand my dog. I just did not understand who animals are or the value of their life. That year, meeting a lot of people, writing a lot of posts online and reading people's comments and understanding, and then also volunteering at animal sanctuaries, where, you know, there was one example where a rescued bobby calf, which is a baby male cow, you know, the male cows, the male baby cows are usually sent to slaughter because they don't produce dairy. So after they're taken from their mother, they're killed at the slaughterhouse, and this particular cow was actually rescued. I spent 6 weeks with this cow, Rupert, and what I learned from that experience was amazing, because that's when I learned that they are actually individuals. There's someone in there with a heart, with a brain, with desires and a rich emotional life, and wants to be with his mother. And this is where I really kind of learned the value of animals. You know, we're animals too, and they're just like us. They just look different on the outside. And I also visited a lot of factory farms that year. I went inside these places myself that I was told were a certain way. I wanted to make sure they were as I was being told. You know, it's a horror show.
Did you go on tours, or how'd you get in there?
Oh yeah, two tours in the middle of the night. Okay. Yeah.
But you're silent the whole time.
Silent the whole time.
So you're traveling and kind of promoting this whole thing, but you can't talk.
Yeah.
Does that make it more powerful when you show up and don't talk?
Well, it made it more challenging, and I mean, some people found it, wow, you know what was interesting, because this topic, animal rights, veganism, how to eat, what we should be eating, we've been doing this for years and all this kind of thing. A lot of people get very defensive when you bring this topic up. The beauty of being voiceless was that if someone started getting defensive, I wasn't able to raise my voice, and so the conversation stayed at a certain level. But also, what was interesting is that because I'd taken this vow of silence for a year, people just respected it for the most part. People respected, they might not have agreed with what I was trying to communicate, but they respected that I'd made the effort to take a year out of my life and stop speaking for the animals. So, you know, it was powerful in its own way.
So you kind of have it's almost like a Gandhi or a Martin Luther King approach, where Absolutely. If you watch that movie Gandhi, or you see what they did in the 60s in the South, I mean, as other humans, when we see this guy starving himself as a protest, or you see nonviolent protests, it does get to you deep inside, because you're like, these are humans and they're actually not fighting back.
Yeah.
And so it's powerful, right?
I'm a huge believer in the nonviolent approach, although I do think both have played their part, but there's three main quotes I take from Gandhi and Martin Luther King Jr. Gandhi said, if they curse at you, don't curse back. If they hit you, don't hit back. Even if they shoot you, do not shoot back. Keep moving forward. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., he said, the means we use must be as pure as the ends we seek. And I want a vegan world. I want everyone to respect each other. I want peace between each other and non-violence. And if we want that, if we want that kind of world, we have to show how that's done. We have to lead the way and walk that path. We can't just tell people to do it and not be doing it ourselves. He also said that love is the only force capable of transforming an enemy into a friend. And in my experience, through trying many different approaches, I've come to realize that definitely what works best for me is trying to educate and encourage and inspire people to make better choices, not blaming and shaming people. That doesn't work well for me.
Okay. Malcolm X said, by any means necessary.
You know, and there's a lot of merit to what he said too.
Okay.
I think when it comes to innocent beings being tortured and killed, by any means necessary makes a whole lot of sense.
Okay. Do you ever look at the world and just, I mean, maybe you do a lot, and just think, everyone's just absolutely crazy? Because when you look at it, it just doesn't make any sense that people aren't acknowledging these are sentient beings that everyone, not only eating, I mean, they're just eating in every which way, shape, or form, right? I mean, if you look at the average American or UK diet, I mean, they're eating many different animal products throughout the day, come from a variety of means, dairy and fish and meat and all these things. And like you said, there's a huge disconnect there. So you got people that love animals and consider themselves peaceful, and yet all these products are, you know, being done in a way that you've seen in the slaughterhouse. Does it ever drive you crazy that people can't see what you see as obvious?
It was not obvious to me for 26 years. In fact, I was completely oblivious, and you know, it makes perfect sense actually why people are like how I was just 4 years ago, because we've been conditioned to believe that we need meat for protein, we need dairy for calcium, animals are killed humanely, free range actually means something, animals are less important than us, man has dominion over animals, plants have feelings too, dogs and dolphins and whales matter, pigs, cows, chickens and fish don't, etc., etc., etc. There are so many lies that have been put onto us that we have just believed. And you know, there's a lot of reasons for that, but I think that eating, because it's so normal, it's so everyday, we never made the choice, let's start eating animals. We just did because that's what society was doing. You barely stop to think about those so mundane choices that you make in your day. But see, for me, what happened is I was a personal trainer for 8 years. When I started to learn that you not only can be healthy, but even be healthier from not consuming animal products, that got me interested. I thought, great, I can help my clients more, I can help my friends and family live a longer life, reduce their chances of many diseases, reduce their chances of getting on many medications. That excited me at first. And I didn't care about animals at this point, man, not at all, because I didn't think they were worth caring about. In fact, I didn't think that they were capable of caring about their own life. So why would I? I just did not see them as they actually are. And so this understanding that came to me, the next thing that happened was that I watched a documentary called Earthlings, which shows all the ways humans exploit and use and abuse and kill animals for food, clothing, entertainment, medical testing. And I had seen animals be slaughtered in footage before, but I didn't feel a thing because I thought we had to eat them to survive. When I saw this documentary, it was with a fresh understanding. And so it led me to the question, if we don't need to kill and eat animals to survive and thrive, what do we do this for? And I really searched for an answer. I wanted to find one. And when the best justifications I could find were taste, habit, tradition, and convenience, I decided that they aren't good enough justifications for a single scream that I'd heard. And I'm not the type of person to condone those acts, or worse still, to pay somebody to commit them. I try to be a peaceful person, a respectful person. If I saw somebody hurting an animal, even if it was an animal I ate, if I saw someone hurting a pig, I'd be over there to stop that innocent being from being hurt. And I think most people have that in their heart. So that's why I believe most people are already vegan at heart. It's just that what we need to do is align our actions with our values, and that's the disconnect. So the world doesn't really make me crazy because I understand why it is the way it is. It's frustrating because we're a long way off the mark, but the beauty is I don't have to convince anybody that animal cruelty is wrong. 99% of people agree with that. So my job, and any other person who understands this, is just to help people learn how to walk in a way that is in alignment with their beliefs and their actions.
100 years from now, do you think we'll look back on this as the way we look back on civil rights, slavery, women's right to vote, gay marriage, as just antiquated thinking? Or do you really believe we're not going to get there?
I believe we'll get there, man. I do. If I didn't believe we would make progress, I wouldn't fight as hard as I do. And for those reasons that we've seen with the civil rights movement and with equality between men and women, justice has prevailed. We've still got a long way to go, but we've moved in the right direction. And already there's so many people on this earth that see what we do to animals as a similar injustice. So for me, it just makes sense that more and more people will get to this point as well, because it's better in every way. It's better for our health. The food's absolutely amazing. There's a vegan version of all your favorite foods. It's the right thing to do by the animals, and most people actually do care about animals. So when we've got everything going in our favor, you don't have to sacrifice anything. You just, instead of getting cow's milk, you get soy, rice, almond, coconut, hazelnut milk. When it's that simple to save so many lives, it just makes sense to me that that's the path that we'll go down. Plus for sustainability reasons, we have to.
Right. There's a point in the movie Cowspiracy, and I don't know how you feel about that film, but there's a point early on where I think the guys that were directing it are speaking to somebody in the California municipal, area, and they're talking about water, saving water through like a shower, a shower spout.
Yep.
And they said, well, wait a second, you could save 100 gallons if you just don't eat meat. And the official got really quiet, and he was like, well, you can't tell people what not to eat.
Yeah.
But you can tell me how to take a shitty shower.
Yeah, that's right.
And you could tell me not to water my lawn, and you could do all these other things that really inconvenience me, but you couldn't dare say, or you could not eat that burger. And it just made me think, as humans or Americans or Western world people, like, why do we take that so seriously? Like, our decision to eat what we want, because these officials didn't even want to broach the topic. Like, that's the feeling I got there. It's
fascinating, isn't it? I mean, that whole movie, I think, is based on the conspiracy of it all, which is that the major environmental protection organizations are being somewhat funded by meat and dairy industry. And they've brought out a new documentary recently called What the Health, which has a similar conspiracy that the American Diabetes Foundation, for example, has funding by meat or dairy or egg industry, and so it's corrupted. And in terms of people not wanting to be told what to eat, it's interesting because the thing that you're telling them to do, it's not an inconvenience. Especially, we're so lucky here. You can get vegan meat, you can get vegan chicken, you can get vegan beef. Tastes amazing. They do there's a lot of interesting YouTube videos on this where they sit someone down and they've got regular KFC chicken and then they've got the vegan KFC chicken.
Come on, you can't beat KFC.
Mate.
Now I know you're off your rocker.
So you need to just
Look,
check it out.
I have to admit that when my vegan friends took me to the vegan lunch in the last 4 years or something, I go to the place, there's a place in Covent Garden, Neal's Yard, I don't know what the place is called, and they give me the vegan burger. I must say that I haven't always been impressed. And sometimes I wish that they would stop trying to copy my meat foods and they should give me something else. But I don't know, I had that experience about 3 times in a row. And I'm always wondering why they're doing that. Now maybe they've gotten more advanced with what they do.
They've come a long way, brother,
Okay, because I had some experiences where I was like, Now maybe it's because, the learning curve wasn't there.
Sure, maybe it takes time, but there's some very powerful people investing in plant-based meats. Bill Gates is one of them. In fact, the CEO of Tyson, which is one of the biggest meat producers in the USA, is investing in plant-based meats as well. And they are coming a very long way. For example, the experiments I'm talking about, they do it with ice cream, they do it with the vegan chicken, they do it with the burgers, and people don't even know the difference now, man. Where before, I'm sure they would have been like, this is shit, I don't want to eat this. I totally get that, but these days, and they're just getting started, they're just warming up. So what I'm saying is, you don't have to inconvenience yourself. You still want to have a burger? Cool. You still want to have a big barbecue with all the meats? Great, you can. We've got them all. Vegan version of everything.
And what about the person that says, come on, James, like I'm out in the Alaskan wilderness and I'm just hanging out, I'm eating some herbs, and I got a net, and I'm gonna go just hook me a salmon. He swims down the stream, I'm gonna eat the salmon, that bear's about to eat him anyways.
Yeah.
What's ethically wrong with having that piece of fish? It's probably fairly good for me, got some omega-3s and 6s. Like, as that example, and I know it's an extreme example.
No, it's a great example. It's a great question.
Why can't I do that, or why shouldn't I do that?
I would say because if you could have eaten something else, that should have been your option. Shouldn't we always be opting for doing the least amount of harm possible? What we're talking about isn't just eating a piece of fish. You're talking about robbing an animal of his or her life for a fleeting taste sensation. Is it really worth it? This animal has a life ahead of.
All right, so it's like the Buddhist karma tip we're kind of on. I mean, that's the perspective.
I'm not talking about karma. I'm not talking about karma.
You're talking about karma.
I'm not talking about karma. I'm talking more about the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have done unto yourself.
Okay. Do you think this negative energy piles up on you as well? If you kind of eating sentient beings all the time, do you think it comes back?
Look,
and the chickens come home to roost, as Malcolm X would say?
Obviously scientifically I can't prove that, but I personally, I believe that it does create a negative thing. I mean, on a real level, you are consuming a product of violence, torture, and death. And on a tangible level, the meat has the hormones of the stress hormones, the fear inside the meat, and you eat that, and people eat it, and and not just that, but I don't know how you think about this, but let's say someone walks in this room right now, it's a fairly chill vibe, it's cash. Let's say we just had a big fight, maybe they'd walk in and feel a little bit more anxious or something like that. Energy is everywhere, right? Sure. Whether you can see it or not. This world, currently, we kill 56 billion land animals and over 3 trillion sea animals every single year. That's a lot of killing in the air, a lot of unnecessary killing in the air, and it's not just in the air, it's put inside people's bodies and it creates their bodies. Do I think that has an effect on this society? Actually, yeah, I do think it does. Can I prove that? No, but it just makes sense to me.
Okay, and salmon's not gonna have too much stress hormone, but you're saying there will be some there.
Well, let's say that you rip a salmon out of their home, and they can't breathe and they're suffocating to death. I'd say there's probably gonna be some stress there.
Okay, let me give you one other example. I've got Cameron Haynes in here in about 8 days, and he's the guy that's been taking Joe Rogan deer hunting, and they do bow hunting. And they go out and they shoot these deer, and these deer, they say they're overpopulated anyway, so they get the licenses out there and they go and they're gonna be killed by wolves if there's too many of them. And they say there's a real, I don't know, something, amount of respect when you actually hunt down a deer for 7 days or 14 days, or maybe it takes you 7 months, and you kill it and you take it home and you dress it and your family survives off that meat. And I haven't done it, but I actually want to do it. I mean, again, I'm giving you extreme examples.
That's great.
What do you feel about that example where, again, you're killing an overpopulated animal, you're honoring it and respecting it. Okay, to a certain extent, you're killing it, of course.
Murder, respectful murder.
Respectful murder, but speak on it, because it's not black and white.
I will.
What's that as an example? And also, they're bow hunting. I don't know if that makes it better than a gun.
Personally, even if they were giving that animal an injection where they didn't even feel it and they fell asleep, that's obviously less cruelty before, or less suffering before their death is preferable, but at the end of the day, you're still killing someone who doesn't want to die. We call it slaughter. If we were doing it to a human, it would be murder. There's no humane murder, because the act of murder can never be humane. And I would say the same about slaughter. There's humane euthanasia, but we're not talking about euthanasia. We're talking about an act of murder, robbing the life of an individual who doesn't want to die. When it comes to, let's say, deer overpopulation, I would say that we shouldn't be just looking at the easiest solution, go and shoot as many of them as we can. We should be looking at more respectful ways that do actually take the value of their lives into account of what we can actually do about this problem. And while we value animals so little that we're willing to kill them just because we like how they taste, we're never going to get to a point where when there is an actual problem they're causing, we're not going to get, of course we're going to kill them for that. When there's actually a problem, we kill them because we like how they taste. So I think it definitely takes a raising of consciousness and of the respect that we show other living beings on this planet before we'll get to a point where people are saying, okay, let's not just kill all these overpopulated animals, let's figure out a solution that doesn't cause all this suffering and this murder. Let's find something better. Do I have that solution? I don't, that's not my speciality, but I'm sure as this movement goes forward and the respect is increased, that we'll start finding other ways.
Okay, I watch the Discovery Channel, right? And I watch Nat Geo, and like, there's murder and killings all the time on the planet, right? The lions slice down, the insects kill each other. I mean, we are predators, right? We have the eyes on the front of our head. Like, you know, when something runs, we're like, you know, your instinct might be to go chase it. What about all that stuff?
All right, so if we were predators, personally, I don't think we're predators. That's why when we look at Slaughterhouse footage, we go like this, most people.
Wow. Okay, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, but it's also pretty gruesome anyways.
But if we're predators,
if you're a predator, you want to eat yourself.
If you're a lion, you would salivate at the thought of a slaughterhouse. That's your jam, brother.
It's easy meat.
Because you're excited, because that's what you eat. We don't eat animals like that. We don't get in there raw. We cook them. You know, we have certain parts. I'll eat that bit. I won't eat that bit. We cook it up. We season it with plants. We put it with other plants. We're not chasing anybody down. We're not clawing into anybody. These tiny little things we call canines aren't ripping into any cows. You know, I personally don't think we're at all predators. We make weapons so we can be predators, but naturally we're not. And our physiology isn't that of a omnivore or a carnivore. It's that more of a herbivore. The length of our intestines, the way we sweat, the way our jaw moves, and basically everything points to us being herbivores. So, I mean, that's not necessarily a reason, because obviously we can live and thrive either way. People live to over 100 eating meat every day. But it's, you know, but what is obvious is that we can also live and thrive without eating any animal products. And when that's the more kind way, seems the way to go to me.
Okay, so like hunter-gatherers back in the day, and then farmers, they evolved with kind of animals around and they would eat their products, and maybe that was a necessary part of evolution.
Sure,
but now, we're in this higher state, we should now act the part, right? And treat everyone ethically and our animals ethically and just be the better people.
As Einstein said, we should widen our circle of compassion to embrace all nature and all living creatures. Lions are still going to kill and eat antelopes, and other insects are still going to kill and eat each other. They don't have a choice. They have to kill to survive. We are consistently trying to raise our moral standards, and this is that next evolution. And doing that would be ending. Let's say we all did that one thing. We all went vegan. We all started just living on a plant-based diet. We would literally end the killing of trillions of beings. Trillions. There's nothing
serious
quite
numbers.
like that.
One of my guests named Ido Portal, he's a movement guy. I had him on stage the other day, and he quoted Einstein as well. And it's very hard to come back from the Einstein quote, right?
Well, who are you gonna one up Einstein with?
you speak a lot, and you debate people a lot as well on stage. What's that like, and how did you become, you know, such a good speaker?
It's fun. I was a terrible public speaker when I was in high school. I was one of the worst, and I was known for how bad I was.
Which meant you were trying, obviously.
No, I wasn't. I was avoiding it.
I was the same, but I didn't say anything, so.
No, I was the worst, man. Okay. I hated it. It was my least favorite thing in the world. I became a personal trainer for 8 years, and I didn't actually realize that I was practicing public speaking. I never saw it. Maybe to train one person or 5 people. And then I went for a job on a cruise ship, and I had to do a speech, and it was actually all right. It was the first speech I'd done since high school. I thought, why was that good? Then I realized I'd been practicing and not even realizing. When I went on the cruise ship, most of the job was public speaking, and I still sucked at it for ages, man. I had no idea what I was doing. I couldn't sell anything. It was all about sales. Couldn't sell because my speeches were so bad. Eventually, I kind of got the hang of it, and then when I started speaking about this, about animal rights, about my journey, about what I'd learned and how it can, you know, increase the peace, it was something I really enjoyed talking about, something that I got invited to talk about very regularly, and now I think I've probably done close to 300 speeches all around the world. So I very much enjoy it because people come thinking a certain way and they leave with a totally different idea about what they want to do and how they want to contribute and how they can help and the things they can stop doing that were causing harm. So, I love it because I see it work. One of my speeches has 12 million views online, and it's influenced a lot of people, and I'm really glad I've gone down this route of education because I've just seen it work so well.
What's the most frustrating argument you get on a regular basis that maybe even has some credibility, so not the stupid argument that you get regularly from audiences?
There's all around the world, the arguments are pretty much the same. I would say the one that frustrates me most is just, I just like how they taste. I just like how they taste. I get that, I love the way meat tastes. I used to eat meat every single day, man. I didn't stop eating meat because I didn't like how it tasted anymore. And I think I find that frustrating because someone can agree with you with everything you say. They agree that we don't need to kill any animals. They agree that there's no difference morally between a dog and a dolphin, and they agree with you the whole way, and then you think that they're with you and they're gonna step onto the side of justice for animals, but then they say, I just like the way they taste. And that's frustrating because when you go vegan, it's the craziest thing, man. You go vegan and then you learn this whole new world of food, and everyone that goes vegan loves food in a whole new way. You try all these things you never tried, then there's all the vegan versions of all the stuff you've already tried. People's idea of going vegan is they're going to eat lettuce and tofu every day, and then they're going to be malnourished, and we're eating pasta and pizza and ice cream and burritos and you name it. And that's frustrating for me because people just don't get it yet. They'll get it as consciousness grows, but currently they think they'll go vegan, they won't have any delicious food, and you almost had them because they agreed, and that's, taste, it's such a meaningless thing comparatively to, whether someone lives or dies, because that's what veganism is. It's not a diet choice, it's not this mundane diet choice, it's a difference between enslavement and freedom, between torture and peace, between death and life. It's a very big thing. And to throw that away and to do what we do to animals just because we like a taste, and there's so many tastes we could also enjoy, that's the thing that frustrates me the most.
I hear that. So, I'll come clean. I've been doing a lot of different kind of body weight movement stuff lately, the last couple of years, a little bit of break dancing.
Cool,
a little
man.
bit of
We should battle later.
Yeah, maybe we will. I got some people here. Doing a lot of body weight stuff, and I've just found myself drawn more to a vegetable-based diet. And so we do kind of a meatless Mondays, we do other things, and I've been really phasing out red meats and a lot of other things, and I've been really enjoying that. And yeah, there's lots of crazy, amazing tastes out there, and there's I crave my vegetables sometimes in a way I never thought I would. And also just a mind shift. I used to be in the banking world, and there you always go out and you see who can eat the biggest steak. That's the celebration meal, and no one ever really thinks, wait a second, I felt horrible later. My grandpa was in the beef industry. I was at a feedlot when I was 4 years old where there's 10,000 cattle. And there's something not right about that place, And so, but again, his mentality. So when my sister became vegetarian, he was just like, what the hell are you talking about? It's un-American. So again, a lot of those philosophies, but I'm becoming more open-minded. But at the same time, speak on vegans as a group of people and the polarization that they have towards other people. Sometimes they can be very militant and they can set themselves out. Also, within the vegan community, there's people hating on each other. That guy's not vegan, this guy is vegan, this guy is being silent for a year and he's not doing the vegan thing. Yeah. I know vegans, Timothy Sheaf's a friend of mine. He's vegan, and I don't think he hangs out with other people that aren't vegan. And if you go back and eat food products again, I think he's just like, what's up? And of course, I understand why he wouldn't come to my house for Thanksgiving, and I get it. But speak on, honestly, the portrayal of vegans in general. Do they get a bad rap? Do they get a fair rap for being a little bit militant? And like you said, it's a way of life. It's not really a way of eating, and they can be very passionate about it.
Absolutely. Okay, it's a really good point you've brought up. But just let me kick back just a tiny bit when you mentioned, you've been doing more body weight stuff and things like that. one thing that people worry about going vegan is they will lose their gains, they won't be able to be strong. And I just wanted to quickly mention that a world record holding strongman is vegan. Mr. Universe of a few years ago is vegan. World champion arm wrestler, world record holding ultra marathoner, UFC fighters, football players, many others.
Yeah, jury's still out on UFC fighters though, right? There's a few that are vegan,
Sure,
right?
just a few, sure. But
yeah, they do exist. I still think that the jury's still out a little bit, whether you can really be at that performance and do that via consuming vegetables. But I must say that there's a lot of protein and protein-based vegetables and nutrients that are out there. But I would still say, I don't know if I'm 100% with you.
Well, what I would say is that isn't it incredible that vegans are still such a small percentage of the population, and yet one of them is a world record holding strongman. So I would find it amazing even if they were in the top 100, because there's so few of them competing, for example. But yet we hear about many of them breaking world records, being in the most physically demanding sports on the planet. So I would say that's pretty good, you know. And maybe the jury
have to run the numbers. But
what I'd also say is that, you know, there's nothing you can find that's necessary in a animal product based diet as there is in a plant-based diet. But the benefit of the plant-based diet is that you get everything you need minus the saturated fats, the cholesterol, the hormones, concentrated doses of pesticides.
And the guilt.
No guilt, man. It's
right.
guilt-free.
But to finish up on that point, I mean, I must say I'm drawn to a more vegetable-based diet. I mean, this is me like speaking the truth.
Cool,
and it's just
bro.
like I find that I got the two things in front of me at the table, and I'm going to the salad first. I'm going to the dal first. I'm going to that first. And sometimes I'm like saying, honey, I wish you hadn't cooked steak tonight because I actually don't feel like eating it anymore. And that's been really amazing for me to see.
Yeah.
Also listening to my gut a lot more. So like when I eat a piece of meat, like how does it feel? If it feels bad, stop eating it, which is hard for a lot of people. So look, I'm seeing something here and I'm going towards it.
Yeah.
Just to let you know.
Awesome,
All right,
man. Good to hear. Okay, back to the vegan
Yes.
community. Do vegans get a bad rap? They do get a bad rap. Is some of it justified? 100%. When you go vegan, it's like this. Do you ever have nightmares? Do you ever have a bad nightmare?
Yes, I've had them.
Okay, I get some bad nightmares, usually about snakes. And I wake up and I'm like, oh, fuck, I'm so glad that was a nightmare because I was terrified. And you wake up and you think, oh my God, I'm so happy now, right? The relief. When you go vegan, it's like the opposite of that. You wake up, all of a sudden you see it everywhere. Victims of violence. You see animal lovers patting their dog while they're cutting into the flesh of a murdered cow, right? Who scream, like would have in their own way screamed for their life a lot of the time. And you look at a butcher differently, you look at a steakhouse differently, you look at your friends and family differently. You can't help it. You know, you're not judging them, or I'm trying not to judge because people are just unaware. But everything looks different, man. And all of a sudden, there's trillions more victims of violence on this planet than you really were paying attention to before. And they're right there and right here and on that person's plate and in the fridge. It's full on. For a lot of people, it's, you know, it can be, I don't know if it's traumatic, but one person says that it's like having secondary post-traumatic stress disorder because of what you realize, because of you see things differently. And a lot of vegans feel a very strong urge to speak up for the animals. Not all of them do it in a great way. Their heart's probably in the right place. Some of them, maybe their heart's not in the right place. I'm sure that there are some vegans out there who are vegan because they get to say that they're better than everybody else, in their opinion. I'm better than you, you are a murderer and whatever. I'm sure some people love that. But they're probably a minority, I would say. For the most part, vegans are passionate about standing up for the innocent victims who people don't seem to care about. And that passion can come through with anger and frustration because vegans cop a lot of shit, man. Vegans cop a lot of shit all the time by friends, by family, loved ones, the media.
They make fun of them.
Fuck, man, constantly.
Do you want to hear my vegan joke?
Yeah, go.
Are you sure?
Fuck, I already heard it. What is it?
How can you tell if someone's vegan?
They'll tell you?
Just wait 5 minutes and they'll tell you.
Yeah, how can you tell if someone's not vegan? They'll tell you that shitty joke.
Okay, thank you. So
I think
they catch a lot of hate, you're saying?
Man, we cop a lot of hate.
So they're sensitized already.
you know, they've kind of become aware of something that can be seen by some as quite traumatic, you know, and they watch the footage, they see what happens to animals, they go, holy shit, this is fucked. I can't deal with this. You know, I need to do something, and they try to do something, and maybe they're not having much impact. Like, I'm lucky, I'm having an impact, man. If I was a vegan who wasn't helping anyone go vegan, I'd be struggling.
Continue watching this fascinating conversation for free by clicking on the link below to visit our website, and I'll see you on the inside.
When I had cancer, I was put on a very high dose of steroids, and all I wanted to do was eat. I put on 25 kilos so quick that the skin on my sides actually ripped and bled, and you know, that's all I was doing was eating. I wasn't allowed to do anything else really. So I was eating a lot, man. And
speak on the cancer really quick. This happened when you were young.
I was 17.
17, leukemia,
yep. And lymphoma.
And boom, it just hit you and happened.
Had a little lump in my neck that turned into 13 golf ball sized lumps. They took one out from under my arm. 4 or 5 days later, they came in and said, you've got a very aggressive cancer. You'll be dead in 6 weeks.